So with the paper project, I'm going to review what we've done in terms of how to connect pieces together. We started out with an interpenetration joint, which essentially you just cut two notches and you put it together just like that. Okay. The only problem with this is it's a non-articulated joint, because once you put it together and in that position, it will have to stay in that position, as you can see here. Okay. After I've glued it down, it won't move. Okay. So next, wire joint, which I'm going to show you last. Next is the lap joint, which looks like this, where you just have, I have several pieces of laminated mat board together, and then I've pinned it, and then I've covered up the pinholes using these other pieces of mat board cut in a circular shape. And essentially this is the construction method, okay, where I've just I cut out two pieces. This is heavy cardboard, by the way, where I've cut out two pieces of cardboard, and then I run an awl through the hole, okay, to the size that I want, which is 1/4 inch dowel rod, and then I just pin them. I just pin them together, all right, and then I can make this permanent. This kind of the positioning of these two pieces by just adding glue and anchoring them together. Okay, but until I figure that out, I like to have a pin in there so I can adjust the trajectory and the angle of the joint. All right. Now, next is the sandwich joint. All right. Sandwich joint essentially looks like this, where you have one element or piece that is sandwiched between two planes of another piece. Okay. Now, and this is fairly simple to do. You just, again, we have laminated pieces of, here I'm using laminated pieces of poster board, same idea though, where I've cut a notch, or actually I've preserved a notch using the outsides of the board, and then I just line it up after I've put holes in it, and then we just, of course, this isn't going in. Oh, really? Okay, let me get this. Should always, which I didn't do, you should always round the ends of your dowel rods using sandpaper. That'll make things go together much better. There we go. Okay, so there, that was a lesson in itself. All right, and then you come out with something like this. Okay. Next, okay, now I'm going to show you how to do a wire joint. Now, it's best to use, I would use steel or aluminum wire is fine. Okay? Don't get too heavy of a gauge of wire, because otherwise it's not going to bend very easily. But the advantages to this is you can bend it in 360-degree directions after it's finished. So I'm going to use, and also you can't use Elmer's glue because it doesn't make a strong enough bond with the metal. Right? So what I've done is I'm just going to squeeze out a little bit of epoxy here. Equal amounts. I use a lot of epoxy actually in a lot of my work. So, all right, then I'm going to use a popsicle stick or craft stick to mix it together. This is a 5-minute epoxy, which means it starts to set in 5 minutes, which is a good thing, especially for something like this, so you don't have to wait a really long time for you to take it out of its clamps, okay, or take it out from under some kind of weight that you put it under for it to dry. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to push this into the channel created. I'll put it all the way down here, just like that. I'm going to slide this into the channel. Now I don't want to slide it all up so it's really tight, because I'll need to be able to. There needs to be some play in order for that to work. And I'm going to take the rest of my epoxy, put it on top here, put it around, just like that. Okay, and then I always mark my the two pieces, the two sides that I'm going to glue together. That way there's no confusion. I'm going to actually put some of this on here. You don't need a lot of this epoxy. And when it dries, when it cures, it's very stiff. So that adds to the structural integrity of your piece too. Okay, so both sides have been slathered with glue. Put this down, and I'm going to line it up. Line the sides up. I'm going to get rid of some of this here. I'm going to bring this down. Okay, now this little projection here I intentionally left because it's part of the wrist. Because when I do attach a hand on here, I want a little bit of a protrusion on top to show the wrist. Okay, now after this is done, I'm going to want to anchor this down. So I'm going to put this on like this. And I'll put this down like this. Make sure this is going in fine enough. Put one like this. And I will, even though it's going to set fairly quickly, I'm going to give it a couple hours before I unclamp this. So I'm going to just set that aside. Okay. Next, I want to talk a little bit about the torso, or upper torso. And okay, so this is also made out of, I mean, it has a core of foam core, okay, and then on top of that it has a piece of poster board, and then I'm using foam core here too to build up some, excuse me, to build up some girth or some dimension to this plane. All right. I've also have sandwiched between the foam core and these planes of poster board some dowel rods, and this is for connecting other pieces. And here's another one. This is a little different, where I've created a sort of this suggestion of chest and tapering torso. But again, I've sandwiched wood between the two planes of poster board, and I also have wire coming through the top, as I did with the other one, which I'm going to be attaching, and I'll show you this. I'll be attaching my extremities. Okay, and I'm going to cuss. Okay, now that'll be covered up, but this way, right now it's articulated, so I can put it in almost any position I want. Okay, except for having it bend out this way, and I'm going to show you how we're going to do that. Next is this is an articulated upper and lower part of the torso, and you can see that I actually used tongue depressors on the inside here, and I carved a channel, and then I laminated the tongue depressors together, and then I constructed this bottom part out of using heavy cardboard and a little bit of foam core. And I ran a wire through it. So when this is ready to be used, when this is finished, and what I'll do, oh, another thing I'm going to do is I'm going to attach this element here after I'm done painting it. So when we bend this left to right, or right to left, you can see that this covers up that central area, and I'm going to do it on both sides. Okay, so all right. So eventually, parts of the, let me just put, I'll put this. Well, I can't put that on there. All right. Eventually, I'll put the arm down here. Anyway, eventually this is going to, I'll put on a leg here, and then this wire will be able to be bent. So the leg could be bent over this way or over that way. Okay, it just makes a more articulated joint. Okay.